Hi everyone, I'm Miss Seven and today we're going to make one of my absolute favourites, Pitta pizzas. Now everyone loves a good pizza, but I'm going to prove to you today not only can they be delicious, they can be nutritious as well. We're going to follow the UK healthy eating model, also known as the Eat Well Guide, which puts in proportion all the things that we should be consuming in order to be healthy. So let's get ourselves ready for practical or mise en place. We know the routine. It should be sanitising, washing our hands, hair, apron. We need to get our equipment and our ingredients, and let's go through that now. For our essential ingredients, we are obviously going to start with our carbohydrate, which are our pittas. Please make sure that they are wholemeal pittas because we get a lot more fibre from wholemeal flour, in the same way also from wholemeal pasta, also wholemeal rice. You can probably buy yours, I made these myself. We're going to need in our dairy section 125 grams of cheese of your choice, mine's vegan today. For our oils and spreads section, tomato paste. For seasoning, some mixed herbs or oregano. We'll also need 1 to 2 cloves of garlic from this head or this bulb here, as well as a large tomato, a plum tomato. I have half of a beef tomato here because these are particularly large. For our protein section, we want 125 grams of, it could be ham or cooked chicken, you could have smoked sausage, or if you are vegan, you could choose a vegetarian alternative, or you can choose chickpeas, which are a great option. Then to our vegetables. Now this is where we're going to eat the rainbow. This is where we're going to enjoy our veg and we're going to have a nice big portion to bulk out our pizzas. You can choose 3 or more from the following. We could have 2 rings of pineapple, half of a red onion, 100 grams of sweet corn, between 4 and 8 mushrooms, I obviously just have the one here, 8 olives, 100 grams of butternut squash, which is going to be about a quarter of this, and then we want the equivalent of 1 pepper, but we want to mix it up, we want to get more of that colour in there, so we're going to go for half of a red or a yellow and half of a green. So I have washed the skin of my tomato, because we always wash the skin if we're consuming it, and if this was a whole tomato we would want to cut it in half. Why? Because it rolls around. So obviously I've done this one already. I'm going to pop it down and we want to dice this tomato. So very quick recap, let's remember that the different holes that we have for our knives, we can either use the bridge where we go through like a choo-choo train, or we can use the claw. My fingernails are right underneath in line with my knuckles, so that if my knife were to slip, the worst that would happen is it might catch the back of my nail. I'm not going to cut my fingers. And remember, when we're holding our vegetable knife, it should be fingers on the side, tucked under, so you can hold it like so. Thumb comes down like a magnet, boop, and it's an extension of our arm. We don't have our finger over the top of the blade. So let's get to it. We're going to dice it flat side down. I'm going to start by using the bridge all the way through, and I'm going to use the claw. I'm going to cut it into small slices like so. I can go back to the bridge, minding my thumb, there we go, and then we want to cut these into small even pieces. Again, I'm going to use the claw. See, I'm stacking the pieces to make it easier for myself, make it nice and quick. Turn it round, using the claw the whole time. My fingers are clear. Going for a chunky, easy dice like that. There we go, lovely. And I can do that for the rest of it. Great, so now that I've prepared my tomato, I want to pop it into a small bowl. I can use my knife or I can use my fingers, but whichever the case, guide it in like so. And next, I'm going to put that to one side. And next we want to crush the garlic. Now this is a bulb or a head of garlic. In order to get to the cloves inside, the easiest way is to use a fingernail or maybe just start it off with a knife, and you have to break it open. It takes a little bit of effort. There we go, to get to the cloves inside. So there's 3 here. You can use 1 to 2. Depends how garlicky you like it. I like it very garlicky, so I'm going to go with 2. Now we don't want the papery parts here. They're going to go into my bits bowl over there. There we go. Oops, daisy. And there's different ways you can do it. Some people like to peel their garlic, and you certainly can. If you wish to peel a garlic, what you want to do is, using the claw, is to go down at the bottom where the stalk is, but not all the way through, because then you can use it to peel off the papery parts like so. There we go. But actually you don't really have to peel it. I'm going to leave that one and I'll show you. Now this is my garlic crusher. It's a little bit fancy, but I absolutely love this thing. I can highly recommend it. And I'm going to pop my 2 garlic cloves in there like so, and this one twists. So I'm going to grab my bowl over the top. And you've got to give it a really good squeeze, like so. Now using a spoon, this is a really important part. The first squeeze is never gets it all out. You have to move it around and give it a second squeeze, even a third maybe. Just use my knife just to cut it free. There we go. And then the scrap from in here can go in my bits bowl. Next we want to add our dry herbs or oregano. That's mine. We need our measuring spoons, and we want ½ a tablespoon of mixed herbs. So I'm going to look for my measure that says ½ a tablespoon, or tablespoon, remember. There we go. And how do we know when it's the right amount? Well, it should be level. There we go, give it a little shake, and that's the right amount. Now I'm going to add my tomato puree. Now if you've got a brand new tube like this one, this is something you may not have known already. It's got a spike in the end of the cap just here, and then on the foil there you can pop it over and give it a little push and a squeeze, and that's how it opens it up for you. So we want around 6 tablespoons of tomato puree. You don't have to measure this one so accurately, we just want it to be approximate. And please remember, always squeeze from the back of the tube, because otherwise we're going to end up wasting food. So I'm going to hold it on the top. That's about a tablespoon. Pop it in there. Don't have to be as accurate with this one. Okay, there's all my tomato puree. So now I'm just going to simply mix it all together. Now you might be wondering, what is the extra tomato for, the whole tomato? Well, because we have the paste, right? But the thing is, we want to make sure that we are getting our 5 a day every day. And actually some countries and some places will actually say that it should be more than 5 a day. So by adding this little bit of tomato in, this just adds to our 5 a day. It's not even a whole portion, but by adding it, it means that we can get a little bit more fibre in our diet. There we go, and there's our spread ready for our pita breads. That looks and smells wonderful. All right, next up, let's prepare some of our veggies. Let's start with something really easy like our pineapple. Now, here's our knife. The easiest way is just to use the bridge technique, go all the way through, and I've got them stacked together, makes it a little bit easier. And I'm going to use the claw, and I'm going to go around, and I'm going to cut them into small, even pieces. Like so. Lovely. Next, I've got my peppers. I want to make sure I've washed the skin first of all. There we go. Now, you might recall from halloumi kebabs that the easiest way that I think to prepare our peppers is to use the claw technique and to follow the contour and cut around the seeds. There we go, so we don't even have to interact with them. Make sure you're cutting all the way to the bottom. So we're going to go for half of this. There we go. Make sure you don't waste that beautiful bit of food at the bottom. Just because it doesn't look pretty doesn't mean it's not perfectly edible. I've seen far too many students trying to throw that away. So there's half my red pepper. Do the same for my green. There we go. Now, we're not obviously going like halloumi kebabs. We don't want big pieces. We want nice, small, even pieces. You could slice it, you could have little squares. That's your preference. You're the chef today. Let's go through one. There we go. So if I wanted to make slices, remember, we can't really cut it from the top. It's very slippery. Turn it on over. Use the grip of that flesh. Using the claw technique, cut all the way through. Nice, thin slices. There we go, minding my fingers the whole time. Now you might want it that big, you might want to go maybe half that. There we go. You decide, your personal preference. Next we have our olives. Now there's a couple of different ways that you could prepare your olives, but of course it rolls, so what do we want to do? Probably cut it in half. Use the bridge technique all the way through, bit of a sawing action. There we go. Use the flat sides down like so. Now you could just prepare them into very small fine slivers. There we go, like so. Or you could cut it in half again. And then even finer, small pieces. Just mind your fingers every time. There we go. Using the claw technique. Now let's prepare our mushrooms. So you might remember from halloumi kebabs that there are two ways to remove the soil and to clean this mushroom. You could either go and wash it, or you can use your thumbnail, go underneath, and you can peel it. It is completely your preference, you're the chef. Okay, so here's our little mushroom. Now we also need to recall that we want to remove this leathery part of the stem. Don't cut the whole stem off, that's just wasteful, we don't want to waste food, just like so. So this little guy rolls, so I'm going to use the bridge technique, cut it in half, so now he's flat on the surface. Now, unlike halloumi kebabs, we don't want big whole pieces which we're going to skewer. We want nice, thin, even, small slices which are going to go on our pizza and cook nice and quickly. So I'm going to use my claw technique and I'm going to go along and cut it into thin slices. Like so. Now, butternut squash might be an unconventional vegetable to add to a pizza, but if we cut it nice and thinly, it actually cooks beautifully, and butternut squash is beautifully sweet. So obviously I've just removed the seeds with a spoon, and the easiest way to actually remove the skin of a butternut squash is not necessarily to peel it with a peeler because it's very, very tough. It's actually to lay it down on its flat side and cut all the way down like so. Turn it on over and actually cut the skin free, like so. So I've cut the skin from my butternut squash, and now I can go back, and I want to have nice, small, even pieces. There we go. Sort of thin slices like our mushroom. There we go. You can even cut these ones into little sticks. Now you also might have half a red onion. I've obviously cut it in half, it rolls. Now it's going to be similar to halloumi kebabs but a little bit more. So in order to do this we want to just we want to top and tail it, cutting the stalk and the root off. And we are going to peel it. I'm going to get the worst of, this is quite leathery, so I'm going to peel this layer off as well as the papery parts on the top. There we go. I'm just going to cut it all the way down. There we go. And I'm just going to keep this nice and easy. All the way down, all the way down. And then I'm going to flip these halves over. And all the way down, all the way down. So we're not dicing it, we're keeping the pieces fairly large because then we can break up the layers like so. So they're actually sort of comparable with our peppers. Okay. For our protein, we want to prepare it very much like we've done with our vegetables so far. So we always want to have a flat side so we can put it down on a surface nice and safely. I'm going to cut this one in half, and then I'm going to use the claw and I'm going to go along and I'm going to cut it into little rounds. There we go. Like so. Perfect. Now if you have ham like this, now what we don't want to do is just be here and do one slice at a time. You'll be here all day. So my recommendation is to actually cut it down the middle, fold it over on itself. You can actually roll it up like so. And then you can go along using your claw technique all the way along, and you'll have these beautiful, easy little ribbons you can add to your pizza. And now we want to prepare our cheese. So I have a box grater here, you might have something very similar, and we want to have the right way of grating it. So here we have different methods. So this is a slicer, this is a large grate, this is a zest, and this is a intermediate. So this is the one that we want. So when we're holding our grater, we always want to make sure that our hand is on the handle, okay, not holding it by the sides. You either hold it sideways or away from you, it's personal preference. And we're going to take our cheese and we're going to hold our fingers away. I'm going to use the entire length up and down like so. Now as we get closer to the end, you actually want to keep your fingers flat. Because most people who grate their fingers catch the edge because they're holding it sideways. If you keep your fingers completely flat and you just slow it down, you'll actually feel the grate as you get closer to it. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so we are nearly there. The last thing that we're going to do is obviously top our pittas. So if we're at school, we need to use some foil so we can wrap them and transport them safely. At home, I'm just going to put them straight on a tray. Now, the first thing I need to do is to make sure that I am distributing the salsa tomato paste that we've made evenly amongst our 4 pita breads. So I'm just going to visually separate it like so. There we go, half, quarter, and then I'll know how much to add. So I'm going to scoop it out, pop it on, and do make sure that you are spreading it right to the edges. I've seen a lot of students just piling it all in the middle. Make sure that every bite is going to have a little bit of delicious tomatoey goodness. That's what we want. So I'm going to do that for all of them. There we go, fabulous. An easy way to add to one of our 5 a day. Now, of course, what we want to do next is top our pittas with whatever we choose. So we might have a little sprinkle of sweet corn on one. I might have some butternut squash on another. Okay, sprinkle of olives. Some gorgeous flavoursome red onion for that crunch. Some pineapple. And a variety of peppers. Okay. So I'm going to keep working on that and I'll see you back in a minute. Well, here are my pizzas. They're a bit overloaded, but you know what? I'm looking forward to them for my dinner tonight. You will need to cook them at 200 Celsius or gas mark 6 for between 15 and 18 minutes until the outside of the pittas has got a little bit darker and obviously the cheese has melted. So I'll see you back then. Well, I'm really pleased with how they turned out. They look and smell delicious. I'm really looking forward to having those for my dinner tonight with a side of homemade coleslaw as well. So I hope you enjoy making those with me today and I'll see you next time.